Bree.
Thank you. The next testifier, well, we're going to return to him, is James McCauley. Mr. McCauley, you have the floor.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
There we go. Never underestimate the power of a fully charged battery. Very good afternoon at this point to my constituent representative, Senator Fonfara. And if he's still listening, Edwin Vargas. I'm the kid that went to high school and aviation program. I graduated from the Upper Bucks County School of Aviation Maintenance, went there in the 11th grade, the 12th grade, and it alone is the only reason why I am in Hartford. After I graduated school, I went on to go to post-secondary and got my graduate from in 2 years, airframe and power plant. And Pratt Whitney offered me a job. And that's how I got to Hartford. I can't help but think that, being the only one minority out of a graduating class of 215 and the only minority in my school, that if we would have been in a more urban setting, there might have been more brown-skinned people. It is unbelievable to me that Hartford students aren't taking advantage of this. And I can only conclude that it is because they are totally unaware of what's going on down there. I know there is a common perception that Hartford doesn't care about this and thinks that this is a place only for rich people. This is number 4 on my list of important things. First being free speech advocate, second, the community, third, politics, having 3 failed runs for mayor, and fourth, aviation. My dad was in aviation, I was in aviation, and my daughter's in aviation. And so I might have to move this up a couple of notches. Brainard Airport runs so efficiently that most people never think about it. That's probably the truth of the matter. It runs, believe it or not, as efficiently as the MDC. That's why people don't think about it. They turn their water on, it's there. The airport doesn't affect most people because most people aren't in general aviation, but it affects those students. It could be a phenomenal economic driver. If I was mayor, I'd be advocating right now with a picket sign down there, because the economic benefit to this community by that airport hasn't even been tapped. There are cities across America that would die to have a piece of land that they could take 201 acres and put an airport there, but they're just not around. You can't just build an airport. And I think that if our city council was given an opportunity to sign a piece of legislation that said, we want to build a task force to develop economic vitality of the airport, they'd have all said unanimously yes. There was no public hearing that I know about to ask, should we close the airport? Because I most certainly would have spoken. And so the fact that the Hartford City Council is all on board with this, I think ought not be taken too much like the whole city wants to shut this down. The Honorable Mayor, I know, has been a fan of shutting this down for some time. But as he is a constituent representative, he is the chief elected official, but that's his opinion. There hasn't been a public hearing by the citizens of Hartford to shut this airport down. And I think that if there was one, the answer and the outcome would be very, very different. I won't go into the long list of things that are possible in terms of the benefit that it already brings. I think everyone has heard that. And ultimately, this will come down to a battle of political wills and whose political clout has more than others. So it'll be very interesting to see how this all turns out. Let the race begin. I'm finished.
Looks like a few questions for you, sir. Representative Cheeseman.
Thank you, Senator Fonfara. Thank you for coming here today, Mr. McCauley. And I share your ambition, your goals for introducing Hartford students to this amazing facility, to introducing them to aviation as a career. So I'm asking you, we heard Representative Vargas say, well, the airport has never, and school never made any attempt to engage Hartford students. How would you go about engaging Hartford students to explain to them that the sky, you have no limit. The sky is your limit. This is a great future for you. Because these are exactly the kinds of career opportunities that you should be getting, at 5, 6, 7 years of age. So how do we do this?
I think there has to be a concerted effort from one, school administration, two, people who are in the know. I would never say that the state legislature fails to reach out to Hartford schools, and therefore that's the reason they don't come to the state legislature for tours. That's not the legislature's problem. I would say humbly that that's a problem within the school. I think they're so encumbered by other things that they're not seeing the benefits that are sitting right here. You could grow that school with, not even the interest off of the money we're talking about, investing to make it something different, not necessarily better, but different. And that's fair. But if you grew that school, you could train mechanics. I was 17 years old when I graduated from high school. I was 19 when I came to Hartford because I went to aviation school for 2 years. I came up here on a tour, and like in 3 weeks, I had a job at Pratt & Whitney because I was graduating. And, that would be available for any kid that came out of that school. Everyone that goes there to learn how to become an aircraft mechanic, if they go on to get their A&P license, will be given a job. If they don't get their A&P license, people like Pratt & Whitney, Sikorsky, General Dynamics would hire them because of the discipline and what you learn. Not to mention pilots. There's pilots that go on down there. There's a flight, a doctor. You can fly in from anywhere in the country and get your physical. What goes on down there is, in my never to be humble opinion, it's not highlighted because the narrative right now is for something different. It just is what it is. It's not that it's going to be better because a marina, last I went, I go up to the place where the poor folk go when they want to go to the island. And there's nice boats up there. I don't see a whole lot of poor people floating up into the marina with boats. So either way, you're talking about a very particular class of individual, whether you have a plane or a boat. But you can build a plane. You could build an experimental plane. We could have kids building experimental planes like the Hartford robotics program. The sky's the limit if you're using your imagination and vision to build at the airport instead of looking for ways to close it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming here today. Thank you for your passion. Mm-hmm. I share your belief that the sky is the limit. And I share your belief also that this should be open to every child, student in Connecticut, and particularly those who have it located right in their backyard. So thank you. Thank you, Chairman Fanfara.
Thank you, Madam. Mr. McCauley, there is another question to be asked, but I must comment or speak to your issue about aren't a lot of people, poor people up somewhere on the river. You're familiar with the area around Brainard Field?
Yes, sir.
What's the economics of the community around Brainard Field?
Well, there's not a lot of houses directly around there. I guess you got to go up beyond Buckley. Hartford's the fourth poorest city in the nation.
Are you aware that there's only one vehicle that still uses leaded gasoline, and that's piston-driven airplanes, the type of planes that flies out of Brainard Airport every single day, spewing lead through the neighborhoods into the ground for children who are playing in the dirt. In fact, a study done in Santa Clara, California, just this past summer, an objective study that found that within a mile and a half of their airport, that the lead levels in the blood of children was dramatically higher, attributed to the planes, the piston-driven planes that fly over their homes in Santa Clara, California. The same type of plane that flies out of Brainard every single day. Are you aware of that?
I wasn't aware of that, but I would humbly suggest that there are plenty of environmentalists that would suggest that the MDC smokestacks also emit things that you can find in our kids, and that burns nonstop. Not to mention the trash to energy plant. So while that may be the case,
You're not here testifying on that, are you? You're here on the airport, correct?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. And you seem like a fairly knowledgeable person about airplanes.
Well, there's, according to what you were saying earlier, there's not that many planes taking off and landing. So I don't know. I would challenge that, but I don't think this is the place for that. We're not in Santa Cruz either, or Santa Clara.
I guess our lead is safer than their lead. Representative Zupkis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Colley, for coming today.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you, and I appreciate, because I was going down the path of Representative Cheeseman. I sit on different committees, and all I hear is we need to keep jobs in Connecticut. We need to keep our young people in Connecticut. We need to provide all these things. And to me, I see this in that school as doing that. And you're an example of that. I also agree with you that the city of Hartford and others could do a better job on what actually could be great at that airport. And just to the comment prior about the smokestacks and all, agreed. We can all pick something, whatever we want to make the case. And if we're going to do that, I think we have to look at the whole picture, because there are other things besides airplanes that create maybe so-called health issues. However, I would say that if the airplanes and the piston-driven airplanes are really a problem, then the FAA needs to be brought in on that, because they're heavily regulated. And if that's a problem, that needs to be taken care of. But I do agree with you, and I think there could be great things happening there, especially through that school. So thank you. Thank you for sharing today.
I thank you for the opportunity to come forward. And to me, anytime there's a problem, there's a challenge. I think that Hartford, being the center of innovation with Pratt & Whitney and things along that line, ought to be the first place that introduces to the nation and yet the world the first general aviation electronic engine that could be powered by either some alternative green fuel or battery power. They are coming out, and that will be the future of general aviation. The sad thing would be for our airport to be gone when the realization of that future hits us in about 5 to 10 years. I thank you for your time.
Agreed.
Representative Nuccio.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a quick question for you. You have an interesting story, and I'm wondering if you could elaborate with your experience, if you had, when you were younger, had to go to New York or Bradley, how much harder it would have been for you to achieve the status that you did. And from that, the job at Pratt & Whitney, which I'm sure has been extremely beneficial. But how hard would it have been for you if this program didn't exist here in the location that it did and you had to travel these distances?
Well, to make sure that everybody's on the same page, I didn't go to the school down here. The school I went to, I actually did have to drive to. I drove, when I was in high school, obviously we went half day there. So, the bus was there, but post-secondary, I drove a half hour to get to school, but the school was on an airport. It was at the Upper Bucks Upper Bucks County Municipal Airport. We drove there because it was at the airport. And it was a very forward-thinking program at the time. I was back in 1970, 77, 78, and 79 when I went there. I'm a little bit older than most. But, people will go there. What one of the people said that testified earlier, you cannot discount the proximity of the airport. I mean, we had guys that flew to school They flew to school. People would fly in. You'd get the opportunity to talk to pilots that were involved in general aviation. It is when I say the sky is the limit, I say that to encourage people to think boldly with vision, so that they're not trapped in a narrative that says there isn't anything there. There's a lot there. That doesn't diminish the plans that someone else may have that is different. But I don't subscribe to the let's malign everyone else so that I can move my plan forward. If the other plan is great, then it should rest on its own merits. But let's say you take the dike down. I'd be terrified that my water treatment plant might be flooded. So the dike's not going to go away. You're going to have to redirect the dike. So how far over is the dike going to go? Is it going to the other side of 91? Where is that dike going to be? Because once you take that dike down, then you've got access to the waterway to flood that whole area. And I know that that's not what they want to happen. So, I can't imagine a marina at that level with shops, malls, buildings, and all that they're talking about. And another thing is it's not Baltimore. You got to come up past Middletown and everywhere else to get to Hartford for boats to be docked. But so everyone can play that game. To me, the greatest asset we have is the one that's there. Life-saving operations are done because livers and hearts are flown in. Yeah, I guess the Lifestar could go up to Bradley and refuel. General Aviation could go up to Bradley and put an operation. That's not going to happen. They're not going to encumber that commercial asset that is in this state with general aviation. So I don't know where they're going to go, but brighter minds than mine will figure that out.
Thank you very much. That's helpful. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Cheeseman, for the second time.
Thank you. I'll be very quick. Senator Farr, thank you for letting me go for the second time. And I just want to say, Mr. McCauley, I appreciate your passion, and I would encourage you to stay engaged. I mean, should this bill move forward and the study take place, I hope yours is one of the voices that will be heard when decisions are being made, because I think the case you've made is powerful. The case you've made is valid. The case you've made is inspiring and should inspire every young person in Hartford to look for a future that is right in their backyard. So thank you.
I thank you for the opportunity, and I promise you I will stay engaged.
Bree,